Good evening. It's Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. Welcome back to BoomerRexTonight, your nearly daily source for news and politics. I'm RisenLadyHeathen. Hey, asshole. What separates our show from other millennial news podcasts?
That we do a pregame show where we get to be all vicious and hateful.
That's
Right.
true. We do spit a lot of vitriol into our pregame show. We have a boomer, and not just any boomer. We have Mr. BoomerRex himself.
All right. Good evening.
You two eat, sleep, and breathe politics, and I'm still learning us three unique perspectives we share along with the facts from our literal round table. Sorry we missed last night. We were all feeling a little under the weather, so we decided to take the night off. As promised, we have more fun with Grignr in the Eye of Argon. We left off with our hero in quite the predicament after murdering and whoring his way across the countryside. He was rightfully detained and brought to the sovereign person of the land, who opted to throw him in the vault of misery. So let's get back to our story. Who wants to start tonight?
I will.
Okay.
As you wish, sire, your command shall be heeded immediately, answered the soldier on the right of Grignr, as he stared into the barbarian's seemingly unaffected face. The advisor, seated in back of the noble, slowly rose and advanced to the side of his master, motioning the wenches seated at his sides to remove themselves. He lowered his head and whispered to the noble, "Eminence, the punishment you have decreed will cause much misery to this scum, yet it will only last a short time and then release him to a land beyond suffering of the human body. Why not mellow him in one of the subterranean vaults for a few days, and then send him to life labor in one of your buried mines? To one such as he, life spent in confinement of the Stygian pits will be infinitely more appropriate and lasting torture." The noble cupped his drooping double chin in the folds of his brimming palm, meditating for a moment upon the rationality of the counselor's words, then raised his shaggy brown eyebrows and turned toward the advisor, eyes aglow. "As always, Agathon, you speak with great wisdom. Your words ring of great knowledge concerning the nature of one such as he, saith the king." The noble turned toward the prisoner with noticeable shimmer reflecting in his frog-like eyes, his lips contorting to a greasy grin. "I have decided to void my previous decree. The prisoner shall be removed of one of the palace's underground vaults." Sorry. Should have been 2-1.
All right. The prisoner shall be removed to one of the palace's underground vaults. There he shall stay until I have decided that he has sufficiently simmered, whereupon he is to be allowed to spend the remainder of his days at labor in one of the many mines. Upon hearing this, Grignr realized that his fate would be far less merciful than death to one such as he, who is used to roaming the countryside at will. A life of confinement would be more than his body and mind could stand up to. This type of life would be immeasurably worse than death. I shall never understand the ways of your twisted civilization. Oh, shit. Yeah, no.
I shall never understand the ways if your twisted civilization. I simply defend my honor and am condemned to life confinement by a pig who sits on his royal ass wooing whores and knows nothing of the affairs of the land he imagines to rule, lectures Grignr.
Why is there a question mark? Grignr space question mark. Why? And what is the ways if you twisted? Like, did he even read this, like, once after he typed it?
Again, typewriter. That's all I've really got.
Fine.
Enough of this. Away with the slut before I lose my control.
Why is everyone a slut?
Again, 70s. Seeing the peril of his position, Grignr searched for an opening, crushing prudence to the sward. He plowed into the soldier at his left arm, taking hold of his sword, and bounding to the dais, supporting the prince.
He spelled sword right the second time.
I just love the wandering tour of royalty this guy is.
Yeah.
Before the startled guards could regain their composure, Agafind leaped Grignr and his sire, but found a sword. I wasn't ready for the spider lemur leap across the blade, permeating the length of his ribs before he could loose his weapon. The counselor slumped to his knees as Grignr slid his crimsoned blade from Agafind's ribcage. The fat prince stood undulating in insurmountable fear before the edge of the fiery-maned comet. What? Yeah.
Yeah, fiery man comet, yeah.
Maned.
Yep. His flabs of jellied blubber pulsating to and fro in ripple of flowing terror.
I didn't
That's
realize that fat could
Flow.
flow like
Be that expressive.
terror. Okay.
Where is your wisdom and power now, your majesty? Growled Grignr. The prince went rigid as Grignr discerned him glazing over his shoulder. What the fuck? Ah, fine. He swiveled to note the cause of the noble's attention, raised his sword over his head, and prepared to leash a vicious downward cleft, but fell short as the haft of a steel-rimmed pike clashed against his unguarded skull. Then blackness and solitude, silence enshrouding, and ever peaceful reigned supreme. Before me, sire, before me as always, ha 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 ha, the noble cackled. Sirrah, that's a...
I did just okay. Do you want to keep or
Nope,
do you want to
I
pass?
want to pass.
Okay.
Consciousness returned to Grignr in stigmatic pools as his mind gradually cleared of the cobwebs cluttering its inner recesses. Yet the Stygian cloud of charcoal ebony remained, an incompatible shield of blackness, enhanced by the bleak absence of sound.
By the way, this is chapter 3, folks.
Grignr's muddled brain reeled from the shock of the blow he had received to the base of his skull. The events leading to his predicament were slow to filter back. He dickered with the notion that he was dead.
Filter back to him.
Indeed.
Grignr's muddled brain reeled from the shock of the blow he had received to the base of his skull. The events leading to his predicament were slow to filter back to him. He dickered with the notion that he was dead and had descended or sunk, however it may be, to the shadowed land beyond the aperture of the grave, but rejected this hypothesis when his memory sifted back within his grips. Wait, what? How does memory sift back into your grips?
I mean, I know
That's
what he's
like
aiming at.
an
Yeah.
internet. Okay. This was not the land of the dead. It was something infinitely more precarious than anything the grave could offer. Death promised an infinity of peace, not the finite misery of an inactive life of confined torture, forever concealed from the life-bearing shafts of the beloved rising sun. The orb that had been taken for granted, yet now cherished above all else, to be forever refused further glimpses of the snow-capped summits of the land of his birth, never again to witness the thrill of plundering unexplored lands beyond the crest of a bleeding horizon, and perhaps, worst of all, the denial to ever again encompass the lustful excitement of caressing the naked curves of the body of a trim, young wench. Okay.
Well done, the Yound would have gotten it.
He hasn't even been in confinement for a day and he's already just gone.
Yep.
Like he's just checked out.
I was going to say originally the whole focus on sunlight thing was rather insightful of young Mr. Thighs, but then we got lost in the rest and Yound wenches.
Right. This was indeed one of the buried chasms of hell concealed within the inner depths of the palace's despised interior, a fearful ebony chamber devised to drive to the brinks of insanity the minds of the unfortunately condemned through that inept solitude. Inapt? Yeah. The inapt solitude of a limbo of listless, dreary silence. Jesus fuck. Okay, so now we're on 3.5. I don't remember there being half chapters previously. Am I crazy? Yeah, this one chapter. Yeah, chapter 2 just goes on forever. Chapter 3 is 2 paragraphs.
Yeah, no, we got a 7.5.
And then we're on to chapter 3.5. Okay, cool.
7.5 is the last one. And
yeah.
the lost ending.
A tightly rung elliptical circle or torches cast their wavering shafts, prancing morbidly over the smooth surface of a rectangular, rigid altar. Like, okay, first of all, that's like a lot in one fucking sentence. Expertly chiseled forms of grotesque gargoyles graced the oblique rim, protruding the length of the grim orifice.
Protuberating.
Oh, yeah, I totally missed that. Okay, your turn.
Protuberating. It's even worse than that.
Go
A
for it.
tightly rung
No,
elliptical
it's Axel's turn.
Oh,
Shut
shit.
up. No.
Go.
Expertly chiseled forms of grotesque gargoyles grace the oblique rim of the protuberating the length of the grim orifice of death, staring forever ahead into nothingness, in complete ignorance of the bloody rites enacted in their presence.
That was the longest sentence I've seen in a long time. That sentence is like 5 lines long. And oh no, wait, because that first
And
sentence,
I can't complain. I do love when people describe the things, but
yeah, that sentence is like 3 full lines.
it's weird because this is what, like, this writing style is later what goes on to be most of the 40K fan fiction.
Ah, that explains
Which is
a lot.
some of my favorite batshit crazy stuff, but rim, death, staring presence, brown flaking stains decorated the golden surface of the ridge surrounding the altar, which banked to a small slit at the lower right-hand corner of the altar.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a lot of good understanding of the parts of altars.
Yeah.
Because, like, the flat bit on top.
This part of
had
the
a
altar,
blood
the other part of the altar, and the can't you just say you're describing the altar and just describe it? Like,
Yeah. The slit stood above a crudely pounded pail which had several silver mesh chalices hanging at its sides, dangling at the rim of golden mallet, the handle of which was engraved with the images of twisted faces and grooved at its far end with slots designed for a snug hand grip. The head of the mallet was slightly larger than a clenched fist and shaped into a smooth oval mass.
okay, is it just me, or does anybody else not have any idea what's going on at all in this dungeon?
Hey, we got
Very
the altar.
confused.
It's got a drain. I'm basically picturing like a autopsy table, but like altar-y. And there's like the bucket with some cups in it.
I don't
And
know
the
where you're
mallet
getting
hurt.
any of that.
Bang to a small slit, right corner. Yeah, slit above, crudely pounded pail. Then the silver meshed cups.
Yeah, a pail, but what?
Yeah.
Where is the pail?
No, it's...
It's where the blood runs to.
Yeah. I agree, it is inartfully done, which is weird for how artfully done it, like, what is done is, or what is here is done.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like this mallet is very important.
Apparently.
But then, anyway, encircling the marble altar was a congregation of leering shaman, eerie chants of a bygone age, originating in unknown eons before in the memory of man, were being uttered from the buried recesses of the acolytes' deep lings.
Acolytes, deeplings.
Yeah, no, I know. Fuck me, I'm just
Are
dumb.
they? Did he mean lungs?
Gotta.
That's
Yeah,
my
okay.
guess. Yeah.
Orange paint was smeared in generous globules over the top of the priests' wrinkled, shaven scalps, while golden rings projected from the lobes of their pink ears. Ornate robes of luscious purple satin enclosed their bulging torsos, attached around their waist with silvered silk lashes latched with ebony buckles in the shape of morose, misshaped skulls. Dangling around their necks were oval-fashioned medallions held by thin gold chains, featuring in their centers blood-red rubies, which resembled crimson fetish eyeballs. Cushioning their bare feet were plush red felt slippers with pointed golden spikes projecting from their tips.
At least that is like, I understand what he's saying.
Yeah,
Like
you
the
got a picture of
previous-
some dudes and some stuff.
Yeah, no, the previous thing, all I got was like there's a big hole and there's some gargoyles around the hole and somewhere there's an altar and...
See, I saw the gargoyles as part of the altar.
Oh, I thought there was a big hole in the center with gargoyles around it staring down into the hole. That was my interpretation, but... Anyway. Yeah.
Situated in front of the altar and directly adjacent to the copper pail, which did we even say copper pail earlier?
No, I think he said it was...
I think we just decided, I think it was a crudely made pail.
crudely pounded pail, which
Yeah.
had several silver
Well, now
mesh
we're in
chalices.
Look, it's a... Jim Thies knows what he's doing. He's generally...
What is what is a silver meshed chalice?
See, what I'm picturing is a chalice with like the little, like,
Silver
chainmail
decorations.
decorative nonsense, but like tiny, like jewelry status.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking that that the pounded bucket had holes in it, and that the chalices were hanging from below those holes.
Could be.
Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll see. Apparently, as we go along, we'll get new details about the buckets.
that's true. That's true. More description.
Which is odd, because again, he just strikes like
could've-
lightning down these paths of
You could have
describing
literally set up 3 or 4 paragraphs of just describing
Yeah.
what's in here through Grignr's eyes.
Oh yeah, no, this is the perfect time to do like a perspective shift and do the rat running along the ceiling
Yeah.
in part of its dismal lives or whatever it is Grignr thinks about rat life.
Fair.
Copper pail was massive. Adjacent to the copper pail was a massive jade idol. It's a really busy room, buddy.
Yeah, it is.
A misshaped, hideous bust of the shaman's pagan deity. The shimmering green idol was placed in a sitting posture on an ornately carved golden throne, raised above a round
raised upon,
Yep.
around. Your turn.
The shimmering green idol was placed in a sitting posture on an ornately carved golden throne, raised upon a round, ivory-plated dais. It bulging arms and webbed hands resting on the padded arms of the seat. Its head was entwined in golden snake-like coils, hanging over its oblong ears, which tapered to thin, hollow points. Its nose was a bulging triangular mass, sunken in at the sides with toe-gaping nostrils. Dramatic beneath the nostrils was a twisted, shaggy-lipped mouth, giving the impression of a slobbering, sadistic grimace.
Yeah, this is it's bulging arms. What?
Again, I don't think there was a lot of people Jim Thies could show this kind of writing to without getting burned by the rest of his church.
Yeah.
So
Divroy
I've done-
plated dais? What is Divroy?
Who knows? It's supposed to be
Ivory.
ivory.
yeah.
Ah, right.
Well, anyway, this is as close as I come to that one game that isn't Jeopardy with the words, because I just don't see words like
Yeah.
that.
At the foot of the heathen deity, a slender, pale-faced female, naked but for a golden jeweled harness enshrouding her huge outcropping breasts, supporting long silver laces which extended to her thigh, stood before the pearl-white field with noticeable shivers traveling up and down the length of her exquisitely molded body. Her delicate lips trembled beneath the soft, narrow hands as she attempted to conceal herself from the piercing stare of the ambivalent idol.
Why does she have something covering her breasts but not her vajayjay? That's what I want to know.
Who knows?
Botherers are weird.
Why even bother putting anything on her at all at that point? It just doesn't make sense to
You
me.
gotta have something. You gotta wrap God's present in something.
Right, but then wouldn't you wrap her for JJ too? Or have her wrapped in some light robe that's easy to remove or tear off or work around or whatever?
Apparently not. They're gonna whack her with a mallet.
Yeah, but so then why even have the clothing in the first place? Just have her fucking bare ass naked. That would have been better.
Hey, I'm just glad she's not.
Maybe with some like runes drawn on her or some shit. Like, I don't know. Make it. You're crazy. Grignr's crazy. This is all insane.
Any of the
Go
previous
the
wars would have
distance,
benefited
man.
from this as their opening description, is what I'm saying.
I really think he just forgot. Like, he just like was like, oh, boobs need to be covered because things, and that was it.
Well, it was a good excuse to bring up her huge outcropping breasts.
That's true.
Because otherwise, it's just naked chick stand scared before idol.
With huge sagging breasts. That's his thing. He likes saggy tits. No, it's saggy
No, just
nipples.
saggy
Sorry,
nipples,
saggy
yeah.
nipples. That was his thing. All right, sorry.
You say
can
it like that, it
continue,
sounds
Boomer.
weird.
Glaring directly down towards her was the stony cyclopic face of the bloated deity. Gaping from its single oblong socket was scintillating many-faceted scarlet emerald, a brilliant,
Isn't it faceted? Yeah.
No, indeed it is.
It is.
I've
been waiting for that one.
I
That's the
remember.
only thing I remembered, and I've been waiting for it.
No, fair. I am again just hung up on the Scarlet Emerald.
Gaping from its single oblong socket was scintillating many faceted scarlet emerald, a brilliant gem seeming to possess a life all of its own, a priceless gleaming stone capable of domineering the wealth of conquering empires, the Eye of Argon.
Bum, bum, bum.
So the Eye of Argon is basically just
made its
emerald.
arrival.
Yep.
All right, chapter 4. Our knowledge of measuring time had escaped Grignr. When a person is deprived of the sun, moon, and stars, he loses all concept of time as he had...
No, wait, hold on. All conception.
Oh, shit, no, you're right. Damn. Good luck with that run.
When a person is deprived of the sun, moon, and stars, he loses all conception of time as he has previously understood it. It has seemed as if years had passed, if it time were being measured by terms of misery and mental anguish, yet he estimated that his stay had only been a few days in length. He had slept 3 times and been fed 5 times since his awakening in the crypt. However, when the actions of the body are restricted, its needs are also affected. The need for nourishment and slumber are directly proportional to the functions of the body has performed, meaning that when free and active, Grignr may become hungry every 6 hours and witness the desire for sleep every 15 hours, whereas his present condition, he may encounter the need for food every... Jesus, this is fucking
Bad.
drilling into the sleepy bits of my brain. Food every 10 hours, and the want for rest every 20 hours. All methods he had before depended upon were extinct in this dismal pit. Hence he may have been imprisoned for 10 minutes or 10 years. He did not know, resulting in a disheartened emotion deep within his being.
Okay, I'm just gonna say, like, you could have gotten rid of all that whatever and just said, like, he didn't need as much food, but they weren't giving him enough. I mean, I don't understand this, like, breaking it out into hours, like...
Oh, you could show me his thought process in a different way? I'm just like, this didn't land well.
He wasn't hungry like he expected,
Yeah.
even on the meager rations he was given. Something like that.
Right, explain why his, like, sleep and food count may be off, because he knows this other thing.
Anyway.
Right, and how the error would be cumulative or something.
It was something.
The food, if you can honor the moldering lumps of fetid mush to that extent, was borne him by 2 guards.
What, they just,
When
like,
2 guards
walk
love
up
each
and
other very much.
birth food
Some
outside
birth
your
food
door.
happens.
You laughed.
Yeah, no, I'm out. Good, fine. Good. Shit. Just put me down as laughing the rest of the time.
Go, Boomer. The food, if you can honor the moldering lumps.
The food, if you can honor the moldering lumps of fetid mush to that extent, was borne to him by 2 guards, who opened a portal at the top of his enclosure and shoved it to him in wooden bowls, retrieving the food and water bowls from his previous meal at the same time, after which they threw back the bolts of the iron latch and returned to their other duties. Since deprived of all other means of nourishment, Grignr was impelled to eat the tainted slop in order to ward off the pangies of starvation, though as he stuffed it into his mouth with his filthy fingers and struggled to force it down his throat, he imagined it was that which had been spurned by the hounds stationed at various segments of the palace.
Wait, so I thought... Oh, never mind.
There was little in the barren vault that could occupy his body or mind. He had paced out the length and width of... What happened to the girl?
Right.
Oh, she's in another
Worst place.
place or something.
But yeah, no.
How does he know about the worst
I
place?
have no idea.
Okay.
He's clairvoyant, because my opinion of where he's
He knows
at...
there's hounds.
My thought of where he's at now is like he's literally in a pit and they're like throwing bowls at
That's
him
kinda
from
what I'm
above.
getting.
But how are they retrieving his other
Yeah,
bowls?
that part seems to fall.
Is
more.
he like handing them back to him like, here you go, buddy, thanks, more food.
Right.
Like, it just...
It will throw its bowl to me.
Uh-huh. Or else he gets the hose again.
Yeah.
But again, you
You
imagine
think
like...
your cell sucks now? Imagine what it's gonna be like when you're swimming.
Yeah.
Tell me that a guard is going to lay down on the floor and reach his arm into to hand down food or anything like that.
First
Like,
time I see one of the guards doing that, I'm kicking him in the hole.
yeah, but that's my point. Like, this does not make sense in any way.
No, I'm gonna open up the thing and be like, hey, Grignr, throw your bowls up. Otherwise, don't, and don't get fed.
Right. Or get the hose.
Yeah. It could always get worse from here.
Yep. There was little in the barren vault that could occupy his body or mind. He had paced out the length and width of the enclosure time and time again, and tested every granite slab which consisted the walls of the prison in hopes of finding a hidden passage to freedom. All of which was to no avail other than to keep him busy and distract his mind from wandering to thoughts of what he believed was his future. He had memorized the number of strides from one end to the other of the cell, and knew the exact number of slabs which made up the bleak dungeon. Numerous schemes were introduced and alternately discarded in turn, as they succored to unravel to him no means of escape which stood the slightest chance of success. Anguish continued to mount as his means of occupation were rapidly exhausted. Suddenly, without notive, he was routed from his contemplations.
Was routed, all one word.
From his contemplations as he detected a faint scratching sound at the end of the crypt opposite him. The sound seemed to be caused by something trying to scrape away at the granite blocks of the floor of the enclosure consisted of the sandy scratching of something like an animal's claw.
Okay, I don't see any animals digging through granite, so...
Yeah.
I think they are. Grignr's fucked. Maybe they're weak to wooden bowls.
He's about to make a friend. Leave him alone.
Okay, I beg to differ, but we'll find out.
Grignr gradually groped his way to the other end of the vault, carefully feeling his way along with his hands ahead of him. When a few inches from the wall, a loud penetrating squeal and the scampering of small padded feet reverberated from the walls of the roughly hewn chamber. Grignr threw his hands up to shield his face and flung himself backwards upon his buttocks. A fuzzy form bounded to his hairy chest, burying its talons in his flesh, while gnashing toward his throat with its grinding white teeth.
But I thought he couldn't see anything. How does he know the teeth are white?
Who knows? Its sour, fetid breath scorched the squirming barbarian's dilating nostrils. Grignr grappled with the lashing flexor muscles of the repugnant body as a gargantuan brown-hided rat, striving to hold its razor teeth from his juicy jugular as its beady gray organs of sight glazed into the flaring emeralds of its prey. Taking hold of the rodent around its mean, growling stomach with both hands, Grignr pried it from his crimson-rent breast, removing small patches of flayed flesh from his chest in the motion between the squalid black claws and the starving beast. Holding the rodent at arm's length, he cupped his right hand over its frothing face, contracted his fingers into a vice-like fist over the quivering head. Retaining his grip on the rat, Grignr flexed his outstretched arms while slowly twisting his right hand clockwise and his left hand counterclockwise. Would have made sense.
Retaining his grip on the rat, Grignr flexed his outstretched arms while slowly twisting his right hand clockwise and his left hand counterclockwise motion. In a counter...
Yeah.
Okay. The rodent let out a tortured squall. I think he meant squeal. Drawing scarlet as it violently dug its foam-flecked fangs into the barbarian's sweating palm, causing his face to contort to an ugly grimace as he cursed beneath his breath. Excuse me. With a loud crack, the rodent's head parted from its squirming torso, sending out a sparkling shower of crimson gore and trailing a slimy string of disjointed vertebrae. Vertebrae. Snapped trachea, esophagus and jugular, disjointed hyoid bone, morose purple stretched hide, and blood-seared muscles. Flinging the broken body to the floor, Grignr shook his blood-streaked hands and wiped them against his thigh until dry, then wiped the blood that had showered his face from his eyes. Again seating himself upon the jagged floor, he prepared to once more revamp his glum meditations. He told himself that as long as he still breathed the gust of life through his lungs, hope was not lost. He told himself this, but found it hard to comprehend in his gloomy surroundings. Yet he was still alive, his bulging sinews at their peak of marble, his struggling mind floating in a myriad of expressed excellence of thought. Plot after plot sifted through his mind in energetic contemplations. Then it hit him. Minutes may have passed in silence, through thought or days. He could not tell, but he stumbled at last upon a plan that he considered as holding a slight margin of plausibility. He might die in the attempt, but he knew he would not submit without a final bloody struggle. It was not a foolproof plan, yet it built up a store of renewed vortex energy in his overwrought soul, all one word. Though he might perish in the execution of the escape, he would still be escaping the life of infinite torture in store for him. Either way, he could still cheat the gloating prince of the secured revenge his sadistic mind craved so dearly. The gods would soon come to bear him off to the prince's buried mines of dread, giving him the sought-after opportunity to execute his newly formed plan. Groping his way along the floor, Grignr finally found his tool in a pool of
You think he'd have noticed if his tool fell off.
congealed gore, the carcass of the decapitated rodent, the tool that the very filth he had been sentenced to spawned. When the time came for action, he would have to be prepared, so he set himself to rending the sticky hulk in grim silence, searching by the touch of his fingers for the lever to freedom. What the fuck is he looking for? First of all, he just murdered a rat. That's fucking extra food.
Yeah.
I would be eating the shit out of that. Like, seriously, raw or not. This is Grignr. Grignr's a man. He's gonna bite the head off and then start chewing on it, right? And licking up all the blood. That's good. That's fucking crazy. Okay. Chapter 5. I'm gonna pass it off to you.
Lucky me.
Yeah.
Up to the altar and be done with it, wench, ordered the fidgeting shaman, as he gave the female a grim stare, accompanied by the wrinkling of his lips to a mirthful grin of delight. The girl burst into a slow, steady whimper, stooping shakily to her knees, and cringing woefully from the priest, with both arms wound snake-like around the bulging jade shin, raising before her scantily attired figure. Her face was redly inflamed. The girl burst into... Oh, no, wait, we're past that. Her face was redly inflamed from the salty flow of tears spouting from her glassy, dilated eyeballs. With short, heavy footfalls, the priest approached the female, his piercing stare never wavering from her quavering young countenance. Halting before the terrified girl, he projected his arm outward and motioned her to arise with an upward motion of his hand. No.
Halting before the terrified girl, he projected his arm outward and motioned her to arise with an upward movement of his hand. The girl's whimpering increased slightly as she sunk closer to the floor rather than arising. The flickering torches outlined her trim build with a weird ornate glow as it cast a ghostly shadow dancing in horrid waves of splendor over smoothly worn whiteness of the marble-hewn altar. The shaman's lips curled back further, exposing a set of blackened, decayed molars, which transformed his slovenly grin into a wide, greasy arc of sadistic mirth, and alternately interposed into the female a strong sensation of stomach-curdling nausea. "Have it as you will, female," gloated the enhanced priest as he bent over at the waist, projecting his ape-like arms forward and clasping the female's slender arms with his hairy round fists. With an inward surge of his biceps, he hastily jerked the trembling girl
Partially.
Indeed.
Your turn.
Oh my god, how far back do we need to go?
Right?
With an inward surge of oh yeah, you missed that of too. With an
No, you got the
inward
of.
surge. Oh, did he? Anyway, with an inward surge of his biceps, he harshly jerked the trembling girl to her feet and smothered her salty, wet cheeks with the moldy touch of his decrepit, dull red lips. So he kissed her cheek?
I guess.
Mm-hmm. The vile stench of the shaman's hot, fetid breath overcame the nauseated female with a deep, soul-searing sickness, causing her to wrench her head backwards and regurgitate a slimy, orange-white stream of swelling gore over the richly woven purple robe of the enthused acolyte.
Gross.
Yeah, first of all, like, when you vomit, nobody throws their head back. That's not a human reaction. When people vomit, they curl.
Yeah.
They curl into the fetal position. They're going to put their head down Because if you look up and vomit,
You'll
you're
drown.
You're
gonna
gonna choke.
choke on your own fucking vomit. Like, I don't care how projectile you are being with said vomit. Anyway, the priest's lips trembled with a malicious rage as he removed his callous paws from the girl's arms and replaced them with tightly around her undulating neck, shaking her violently to and fro.
Don't shake vomiting, girls. They hate it.
And replaced them with tightly.
Yeah, no,
that's
it's
what it fucking says, man. The girl grasped a tortured groan from her clamped lung. How can she groan if her lungs are clamped? Her sea blue eyes bulging forth from damp sockets. Crocking?
I got cocking on mine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cocking. So I was trying to correct it, so that's you.
Cocking her right foot backwards, she leashed it desperately outward with the strength of a demon possessed, lodging her sandaled foot squarely between the shaman's testicles.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
And, like, that's not acing the ball kicking test, is all I'm saying.
And wait. She was totally naked except for a bra, and now she's got sandals.
Well, I mean, harness, so. I assumed it did less lifting and more separating, but I don't really know much about sacrificial harnesses.
You didn't describe it very well. I'm assuming it's a bra.
Yeah.
A metal bra.
And sandals, apparently.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember, but...
No, he said
This-
nothing about the sandals, yeah.
No, he's not into the feet. It's the huge outcropping breasts,
That's true.
which I can understand of a boy of his age.
Okay.
The startled priest released his crushing grip, crimping his body over at the waist, overlooking his recessed belly, wide open in a deep chasm.
Why is his belly?
I don't know. His face flushed to a rose shade of crimson.
To rose red shade.
Oh, yeah, no, good. Fuck off then. I don't have time to interpret this shit. I'm just trying to read it like as it's there, which is not.
No, you do the same thing. Once you get, into a flow, like you'll skip stuff. Like,
Yeah, I'll
'cause
just
it
make a
doesn't
better
make
story.
sense.
It's fine.
Yeah. Go ahead, Boomer. His face flushed to a rose red.
Hold on. His face flushed to a rose-red shade of crimson, eyelids fluttering wide with eyeballs protruding blindly outwards from their sockets to their outmost perimeters. On his lips quivered wildly, about allowing an agonized wallow to gust forth. As his breath billowed from burning lungs, his hands reached out, clutching his urinary gland, as his knees wobbled rapidly for a few seconds and then buckled, causing the ruptured shaman to collapse in an egg-huddled mass to the granite pavement, rolling helplessly about in his agony. The pathetic screeches of the shaman groveling in dejected misery upon the hand-hewn granite-laid pavement, worn smooth by countless hours of arduous sweat and toil, a welter of ichor oozing through his clenched hands, attracted the perturbed attention of his comrades in their fetid ululations. The actions of this rebellious wench bespoke the credence of an unheard-of sacrilege. Never before in a lost age of untold eons had a chosen one dared to demonstrate such blasphemy in the face of the cult's idolic deity. The girl cowered in unreasoning terror, helpless in the face of emblazoned acolyte's rage. Her orchid-tousled face smothered betwixt her bulging bosom as she shut her curled lashes tightly, hoping to open them and find herself awakening from a morbid nightmare.
I want to point out, I think Jim Thighs may be patient zero of the weeb virus. Like, before that was even a thing.
First of all, women can't.
That is the most
like,
anime
put
sentence
their-
I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I have some big boobs. Okay, they're pretty huge.
But you can't take cover behind them.
Trump would call them huge and ginormous, the biggest
Yeah.
you've ever seen.
But you're not going to hide behind them.
but I'm not gonna, like, I can't. First of all, remember, she's got a metal bra on.
Yeah.
With a bra on, there's no. Look, I can't even get.
Maybe she's like a pop. She's part pop.
And I have a really long neck, so if any woman can do it, I should be able to put my face in my boobs. This is not a thing. It's not gonna happen.
Again,
Now, if I wasn't wearing a bra,
rupture.
I could certainly, like, touch them to my chin if I tried really hard, but, like, it's gonna be uncomfortable for everyone involved, you know? This is not something.
Yeah.
Women do not put their faces in their boobs. It's not a thing. So anyway.
I want to go back to the ruptured, causing the ruptured shaman to collapse. Like, he wasn't.
She kicked that asshole good.
Yeah, he wasn't kidding about that demon possessed thing.
Yeah.
Like, normally people use that as hyperbole, and
I've seen people throw up and or pass out.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have described it. Would you have described those people as ruptured, and was their ichor leaking out?
No.
What the fuck is ichor?
Goo. Like wound goo.
Extrails that were, until a moment ago, entrails.
And ruptured urinary glands, which again is always good for people for me. All right, I'm good. It was the smothered betwixt her bulging bosom. Yeah, fucking.
The girl cowered in unreasoning terror, helpless in the face of the emblazoned acolyte's rage. Orchid tousled face smothered between her bulging bosom as she shut her curled lashes tightly, hoping to open them and find herself awakening from a morbid nightmare. Yet the hand of destiny decreed her no such mercy. The antagonized pack of leering shaman converged tensely upon her prostrate form, were entangled all too lividly in the grim web of reality. Shuddering from the clammy touch of the shaman, as they grappled with her supple form, hands wrenched at her slender arms and legs in all directions, her bare body being molested in the midst of a labyrinth of orange smudges, purpled satin, mangled skulls, shadowed in an eerie crimson glow. Her confused head reeled, then clouded in a mist of enshrouding ebony as she lapsed beneath the protective sheet of unconsciousness to a land of peach and resign.
So what happened? They like attacked
She passed
her?
out.
Yeah, they snatched her, picked her up, and were body surfing her to wherever they're taking her.
Cool.
Take hold of this rope, said the first
This
soldier,
is chapter 6, so everybody knows.
and climb out from your pit, slut. Your presence is requested in another far deeper hellhole. Grignr slipped his right hand to his thigh, concealing a small, opaque object beneath the folds of the G-string wrapped about his waist. Brine wells swelled in Grignr's cold, jade-squinting eyes, which, grown accustomed to the gloom of the Stygian pools of ebony engulfing him, would be dazzled and blinded by flickering radiance cast forth by the second soldier's resin torch. Tightly gripped in the second soldier's right hand, opposite the intermittent torch, was a large double-edged axe, a long leather-wound oaken handle transfixing the center of the weapon's iron head. Adorning the torsos of both these sentries were thin yet sturdy hauberks, and breastplates of which were woven of tightly hemmed twines of reinforcing silver braiding. Cupping the soldiers' feet were thick leather sandals wound upon their shins to 2 inches below their knees. Wrapped about their waists were wide satin girdles with slender bladed poignards dangling loosely from them, the hilts of which featured scarlet-encrusted gems. Resting upon the manes of their heads and reaching midway to their brows were smooth copper morions. Spiraling the lower portion of the helmet were short, upcurved silver spikes, while a golden hump spired from the top of each bassinet. Beneath their chins, wound around their necks and draping their clad shoulders, dangled regal purple satin cloaks, which flowed midway to the soldier's feet.
Okay, so
They're all dressed up.
their
They're
necks
fancy guards.
have, as opposed to their shoulders have capes, their necks have capes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
And-
can I just say, like, we need some capitalizations at the beginning of sentences here because this is ridiculous. You can't even count the number of sentences.
He
that have
was
started with
overcome describing their clothing.
lowercase
It's
letter.
fine.
It's like, let there be a standard, right? Either you're capitalizing at the beginning of each sentence or you're not, but like this back and forth shit's gotta go.
God, can you imagine feeding this to a checker?
Right?
Yeah, an editor would cry.
Yeah.
This would make any editor just sob.
It'd make Microsoft Word go crazy.
No.
Clippy would move.
Yeah.
Clippy would give you the finger and then delete himself from your computer. Like,
Recompile.
you need more than me, buddy. I can't help you with this.
Best applet ever published. God, I loved that. Stalked over, grabbed Clippy out of the corner, bent him all to hell, took him over and stuffed him in the garbage can. It was great. All right, here we go. Hand over hand, feet braced against the dank walls of the enclosure. Huge Grignr ascended from the moldering depths of the forlorn abyss. His swelled limbs, stiff due to boredom of a timeless inactivity, compounded by the musty atmosphere and jagged granite protuberant against his body, craved for action. The opportunity now presented itself, served the purpose of oiling his rusty joints and honing his dulled senses.
Yeah, I mean, this man hasn't killed anybody in
a
a
couple
day
of
or
weeks,
two.
yeah.
A day or two, because let's remember, he doesn't know if he was down there for 10 minutes or 10 years. He's
Yeah.
got no
Yeah,
idea.
that rat could have been 5 years ago.
And by the way, can I also point out the fact that he could walk around his cage, but he says he was inactive? Like,
Yeah.
dude like that would be doing push-ups and, like, handstand push-ups and, like, you know, you'd be doing something. You wouldn't just be
Yeah, that's how you get
sitting
tired
there.
enough to sleep. Bad at the screen.
He braced himself, facing the second soldier. The sentry's stature was wildly exaggerated in the glare of the flickering crescent cuppix on his right fist.
What is that?
I don't know, but it's in his right fist. Go ahead. Your turn.
Oh. The sentry the sentry's stature was wildly exaggerated in the glare of the flickering crest cuppix in his right fist. His eyes were wide open in a slightly slanted, owlish gaze, enhanced in their sinister intensity by the hawk-bill curved of his nose and pale, one word, yellow peak of his cheeks. Place your hands behind your back, excuse me, said the second soldier as he raised his axe over his right shoulder blade and cast it a wavering glance. We must bind your wrists to parry any attempts at escape. That's not what that word means. Be sure to make the knot a stout one, Borig. We wouldn't want our guest to take leave of our guidance. Borig grasped Grignr's left wrist and reached for the barbarian's right wrist. Grignr wrenched his arm free and swiveled to face Borig. Reach beneath his loincloth with his right hand. The sentry grappled at his girdle for the sheathed dagger, but recoiled short of his intentions as Grignr's right arm swept to his gorge. The soldier went limp, his bobbing eyes rolling beneath fluttering eyelids, a deep welt across his spouting gullet. Without lingering to observe the results of his efforts, Grignr dropped to his knees. The second soldier's axe cleft over Grignr's head in a bills of silvery ferocity, severing several scarlet locks from his scalp, coming to rest in his fellow's stomach. The iron head crashed through the mail and flesh with splintering force, spilling a pool of crimsoned entrails over the granite paving. The fuck just happened?
He shanked one dude and ducked, and then the axe, like, that part didn't really make a lot of sense, because, like, if he shanked that guy, he's probably coming down. But instead, he got his buddy's axe stuck in him.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, it's that gratuitous scene in every movie now where, like, someone ducks into the thing
And
and
again,
it goes right over him.
Who takes the dangerous dude out of a pit without having weapons drawn and with only 2 people?
Yeah, and axes are exactly the wrong weapon to use in a hallway.
Yeah, no, it would be daggers.
Yeah.
So, I vote we end here and ask the question, will our hero escape?
Ba-ba-bum.
I'm betting yes.
I think not. I think he's Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Yep.
Oh, I think that he's going to escape. Potentially with the help of the bitch. Or the slut, or the other
Well, we seem
slut,
to have gotten
or the
her ready.
other slut.
Here's the slut.
Right.
Oh, vomiting McChoke titties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about her. You know what I miss? I miss the girl from the fucking bar. Fucking frog squatting on benches.
Yeah.
She's the only one who seemed to have any real goals.
That's fair. I guess, well,
Putting
you know
herself-
what? We might never find out what happened to her.
Putting herself through plague doctor school.
Yeah. All right. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, heart, follow, review. Smash that like button on YouTube. Go to BoomerRexTonight, no spaces on Facebook for fun memes and a link to our Patreon. Give us $1. You can find us on YouTube as BoomerX or check your favorite podcasting service for BoomerRexTonight. We can be found on over a dozen different platforms, including Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Samsung Podcasts. Hit us up on Twitter at BoomerRexTonight. And if you Google BoomerRexTonight, no spaces, all links will lead you to us. I think tomorrow, for a change of pace, we will go back to doing news, and then
Finish up.
we can come back to...
Yep.
Yeah, so,
It seemed like we were getting near the end.
Yeah.
yeah, I think we were a little more than halfway through, because Chapter 6 we're still on, I think, and Chapter 7's last chapter. I think Chapter 6 and 7 just go on forever.
Oh.
So.
But red emeralds are a real thing.
Well, and I don't know how much...
Are they called rubies?
No.
No.
They're called red beryl.
Yep.
Excite. Excite.
Ruby is a soft stone. Emerald is a hard stone.
Huh.
And I had assumed all of them were green, but, and again, this is what they're called. Like, I think actual emeralds are all green.
Yeah, if you're going to call something an
This is
emerald,
beryl.
I think it's green. Beryl, I think, is
Yeah.
the same stone,
Yeah.
Right.
just different colors.
Exactly.
Different contaminants.
Right. All right. So, we love y'all, and we will see you back here tomorrow night for more Boomer Rex tonight.